Welcome to the short course. I'm Todd Dobson. Today we're sitting down with Ryan French, the founder of the Twitter account Monday Q Info. And for listeners who don't know about Monday Q, Ryan's been sharing stories about golfers chasing their dreams on the most elite golf tours around the world. Typically, it incorporates some sort of Monday qualifier, hence the name Monday Q. But you've really captured a lot of great stories throughout your 5-10 years you've been doing this. So I was hoping you could maybe give a little bit of background into your own story and how you got into it. Brief summary.
Yeah, I played junior college golf and then tried to play at a 4-year school, and that was my wake up call. There's a lot better players in the world than I was. After that, my dad and I would go caddy on a mini tour once a year. This was like 25 years ago, um, and that was kind of my introduction into the off the course life that these guys and girls play. And then fast forward many years, my son had brain surgery 8 years ago, and I left my job for what I thought was 6 weeks to like take care of him. And we have another child, and I started this Twitter account with zero expectations and just telling some stories about Monday qualifiers, and somehow it's become this. I've never been back to work. It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty wild, and it seems like everybody in the circle of professional golf knows about you, and then maybe the people on the just your kind of average golf fan may have not have heard about you, but it's crazy how respected your voice is amongst the top professionals. And with that being said, you've been tracking the changes that are the PGA Tour is undergoing right now. It seems like golfers are making a ton more money. They're trying to shrink the fields, potentially Monday qualifiers going away for good. So with that being said, in your opinion, where do we stand in the professional landscape of golf? Like, can you kind of put a little context of this is uncharted waters, I'd assume.
Yeah, I mean, first thing is like I have no problem with the top players being paid more than other things. PIP and TGL, like at the end of the day, those things are to get top players paid, and those are the guys that bring in money, right? So no problem with that. Uh, but shrinking the fields and kind of, I go back to Jay saying when this all started that he was going to lean on the history of the PGA Tour, and then it seems like we get further and further away from that. And we're taking away opportunities, playing opportunities for guys that have the ability to play on the PGA Tour. And again, we'll never know the stories we will miss if they never get there. But I use this tweet often when talking about this. Is 15 of the top 50 players in the world. I did this a few weeks ago, so it may have changed a little bit, but at that time, 15 of the top 50 in the world got to the PGA Tour in a way that will be gone in 2026. And so, that's what we're going to miss out on, right? Is like the fact is that those things are going away. Opportunities in the door is closing even more.
And I'm so curious because of these proposed changes and then the prospect of potentially joining forces with the Live Tour, bringing them back together. How does that shake out when you're trying to shrink fields and then 54 more guys are trying to slot back into these tournaments?
Yeah, I wish, I'm very open that I have a pessimistic look about what pro golf is going to look like in 5 years, but you know, I foresee if this comes together onto one tour, and obviously there's a lot of debate whether that will happen, is that signature events combined with live events are going to make the top tier of golf with 70 to 80 players, whatever, and then everybody else is going to fall into this category. Now, I hope the category underneath is a combination of the best Corn Ferry events and some PGA Tour events like the Rocky Mortgage and those kind of things, and the purses are $4 or $5 million, and players can and make a good living there. But I'm afraid we're headed towards a version of the signature live events combination for the top, whatever that is, 70 to 80, whatever it looks like. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they just bring them together and somehow this becomes like, hey, the fields are going to be a little bit smaller, but we're going to have a play. It's going to be back to 4 rounds and cuts and all that kind of stuff. But I'm afraid that's not where we're headed right now.
And amongst this division in professional golf, you've had all these, pop up budding alternative golf formats, be it YouTube golf or, you can name them all. What is your perspective and even the players you cover's perspective of these alt golf challengers or, alternatives? Is it sustainable to you and the players you cover?
Yeah, I mean, I think guys and girls that are on the fringes of pro golf want a place to play, right? Like the next tour, the grass league, they need mini tours to come together and have purses. Again, I talked quickly about caddying for on many tours a long time ago. You know, the Hooters tour had Monday qualifiers to pay $1,500 entry fee to get in, and purses were $250,000. Guys could make a living, sustain their career. Like you just can't do that on many tours right now, right? Like we they need a place to earn money to keep their career going. There was a stat a long time ago. It's probably changed, but it took like 5.4 years or some average to get to the PGA Tour, and those years cost players, fifty to $70,000 a year. Now, obviously, you can earn some of that back, but for the most part, it's a losing break-even proposition. So we need as many options in pro golf that are sustainable that can get guys and girls paid to continue and sustain their career.
So with that being said, you broke the story back in December when we had our last event where inactive tour players and then players that had status either on Canadian tour or conditional status on the Corn Ferry tour tried to play in the GL championship, but were told no. And we're just so curious about that, about what the motivation is behind those decisions from the powers that be. And we're curious what your thoughts are behind the motivation there.
I mean, I wish I had a good answer for you. That there is no good reason. No, again, the top players, yeah, I understand, no problem. Even if you just said PGA Tour membership, I would understand because then it's down a slippery slope. Like, oh, you allow these guys to be here. Why can't you do live, right? But to deny America's tours player who they play on a tour, I did this stat. How does is this was 3 years ago. A player sent me his P&L sheet, right? He finished third on the money list, uh, and he netted $15,000 for the year, third on the money list, right? He has 4 kids. So obviously that's gone and, doesn't pay your bills for 2.5 months, right? Uh, so 90% of the players that are playing on the Americas tour are losing money. Okay. And that I mean, that's not sustainable. I tell players all the time, like, if you don't have financial backing, don't go on that tour. Like, it's just not a viable option if you have, because you go up there and have a bad year, like you're done, like you're up. And so prevent players like that from having an option that's at home for a lot of these guys. To make money with no investment is quite frankly ridiculous. There's no other way to say it. It's just ridiculous. There's no there's no good reason you're preventing them. They're not taking any viewers. They're not doing anything. If they get to the PGA Tour and you want to own their video rights, that's fine. But America's Tour is just it's this blanket statement with no regard for what guys are trying to do because they know the vacuum will be filled. That's it.
And I think the hope of the grass league is to kind of help build these stories. So if they do get to the PGA Tour, people are familiar with that person, and you don't have these people on Twitter saying, "Never heard of this guy. Professional golf is going down the tube." So, but with that being said, do you see a world in which the PGA Tour begins to relax on some of these issues, rights and being able to play in other tournaments?
it will be very interesting on that side of it, what the agreement looks like, right? Because obviously we're talking a little bit down the like a league and on Peacock and all this, but like let's talk video rights from the top players. Bryson, that I would argue that he probably thinks it's as even as live events or pretty close, right? So it would be super interesting to hear where that agreement comes to. I hope that the players speak up because it was a huge issue for Phil. It was a it's currently a huge issue for Bryson. A lot of the guys on Live are making a YouTube content of some sort, and that would hopefully trickle down to everybody, right? Like let's be logical about this. Like again, I understand you have to have some parameters, but to just blanket say you own everybody's video rights is ridiculous.
And to that point as well, it seems like the talk on Twitter or just in golf circles right now is about TV ratings. Um, my question to you is the TV ratings problem as big as they are making it out to be? And is it a even bigger problem that people like Bryson and the good groups like Good are getting almost as many or more viewers than a live PG Tour broadcast?
Yeah, and I think back to your point, Todd, is like, you know, do leagues like the Grass League and Next and want to promote these players and do marketing for them? And and again, Bryson has helped Live whatever that number is. It's not sustainable, but he's helped Live by having such a big social media presence, right? Even if that doesn't translate to people watching on Fox, their logos are on being viewed millions and millions of times a day, and he talks about it and all of those things. It becomes part of the social media culture. Uh, and again, I don't know how the tour doesn't see how that's helpful, right? Like again, I don't want to make this about me, but like I have arguments with the tour about a lot of stuff. 90% of my content is promoting players on their tours for free that they don't themselves promote, right? So it's like I'm the bad guy. I'm not the bad. Like I'm promoting players. It's the same thing. There has to be. I get some parameters, but I use Todd this all the time. Will Zalatoris was sixth in the U.S. Open. He'd come off the Corn Ferry, and everybody's like, "Who's Will Zalatoris?" Will Zalatoris has been the best player, one of the best players in the world since he was 8. Like no one, someone has dropped the ball, whoever that is, leading up to that U.S. Open. That anyone is asking, who outside of very very casual golf fans, who Will Zalatoris is, right? Like someone has dropped the ball, and so again, if Will doesn't, but if he did, if he had YouTube and he was allowed to do YouTube, a lot more people would know about him. So again, it has to change. The ratings, just the feel of pro golf is pretty gross right now, and so you know, I think I know that Bryson and those guys are going to want that to be a huge part of any agreement.
I agree with that. And I think by now you kind of understand the ethos of the grass league and the players we're trying to give a platform to. So with that being said, where do you see the grass league fitting in today's golf landscape and the future landscape of golf?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have an option where it's a new league, it's something different that's not being done, and players want to do it and it's fun, can it translate to all the things that we just talked about? Great socially, great on YouTube, great watchable product, and gives players an opportunity. And you do some of the work for the Corn Ferry Tour or the PGA Tour or the Americas Tour to introduce some of these players to the world. I just don't know. Again, I say it about the next tour. I say it about a good mini tour. Is like, I, again, I say it a lot. Is invest in telling these stories. I give away what I do. I tell you why you have to care about a guy or girl and then get them to watch that player hit a wedge, right? just player A hitting a wedge, no one cares about. But if you market that person, get to know that person, then they want to see them hit a wedge. That's the job of the grass league for free in the tour's case. In this case, right? It's what the Corn Ferry Tour should be doing. I just had a conversation with the CEO. I was like, and a player said to me from the Corn Ferry Tour is, you know, do you ever go to a AAA baseball game and think you're at a Major League Baseball game? No, they do everything different, right? Is like, and the Corn Ferry Tour tries to be the just a mini PGA Tour. It's not. It's the AAA of of golf. They should do things differently. So I think the grass league has a huge, with the help of the PGA Tour, with the help of the players buying in, can be a part of the future of golf. It's changing, as you can see. Watching Bryson hit balls over his house is the biggest thing in golf for a long time. So a par three league definitely has a shot.
I guess I didn't clarify at the beginning of this. How many years have you been doing Monday Q?
Yeah, 7 or 8.
Seven. And through that journey, what is your favorite story that you've covered or come across?
Oh man, that is that's so hard. And there's so many. Daniela Icabelli, maybe one of my favorites. Daniela is a Epson Tour player. She just quit smoking and quit drinking, but she was like kind of not kind of, she was like smoking, drinking, in your face, swearing a lot. Um, and she was like old school golf to me. And then she's won a bunch on the Epson Tour, kind of been up and down to the LPGA. And last year, her girlfriend was uh, had some serious medical issues, was in the hospital, and Daniela couldn't come home because she couldn't afford it. And she ended up winning that golf tournament, $35,000. And it kind of encompasses everything. Is like, look behind the scenes of what a lot of guys and girls go through all the time. Like she literally, she could have obviously, but financially, she couldn't afford to get off the road to not do that event. So, and she won. So probably my favorite story. It's pretty awesome. She's one of my favorite people.
It's awesome. I guess kind of closing this out with all the changes that are happening at the PGA Tour, what does the future of Monday Q look like?
Yeah, I think that we continue to tell there's never going to be a shortage of stories of players chasing top tours in the world. We might have to, they might not be as accessible as like, there's a couple of great stories this week in the Mexico Open that I'm working on that got through Monday qualifier. And I wouldn't have known about them if it wasn't seeing their name and learning about them after they Monday qualified. But those stories will still be out there. I'm just going to have to work a little harder to find them and tell them. And so, obviously, in an ideal world, Mondays come back at some point. But uh, yeah, there's going to be plenty enough stories to tell.
And I guess the last question I have for you is there one player right now that you've been covering that's going to have a big year that nobody knows about? Any big predictions?
I mean, on the corner, I've said it a few times, and it's not really out of the blue because he had a great year last year. But Johnny Kiefer is going to be a superstar. I I very rarely follow a player. I'm always impressed with 99.9% of pros and how they hit the ball. But man, I followed him for 3 holes in a practice round in the Bahamas Corn Ferry event, and his ball flight and control is really, really impressive. The dude is going to be really good, really, really good. So it won't be long until you see him uh winning on the PGA Tour, in my opinion.
And do you have any predictions for any grass league player? It's going to have a big year this year that maybe you've covered or know
Yeah,
about?
yeah. I mean, you know what? Drew Stoltz out of the like, I know he's on an amateur. Drew's great. Mark Baldwin, Jared Hack, Jared and I message all the time. Jared like made one of the most ridiculous runs through the Western Am, if I'm right. He was 17 or 18, beat Dustin Johnson and two other future PGA Tour members on his way to the win. Like the dude is really, really good. And Jared's one of the best people in the world. So watch out for him.
I love it. Well, I know Mark Baldwin. There's been a couple different owners that have been calling him up about playing for them. So hopefully you come out for our April and early May event and share in the festivities. But again, thank you so much for coming on, Ryan. You got your story, and what the stories you cover is truly an inspiration for the Grass League. So we really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Keep up the great work, guys. It's awesome to see these new things pop up. As I said, it's awesome that players have an opportunity to play for money that can sustain their career. It's important, vital in this golf landscape right now.
Seriously, agreed. Well, that's it for the short course. Thanks for tuning in.